I really believe that we're in a place right now where there are a lot of people who don't either know about this or that they have serious doubts about this, and they're probably capable of doing it, but they're holding back because it's like, well, I'm not going to jump into this foolishness if it's not real, and if this is an arena for clowns, right? It's like, but I think that there's an actual lack of awareness, and I think that once that catches on and people realize it, there is probably going to be probably 1,000% influx of GMs trying to actually do pro GMing, which is good. But I think that I still think we're ahead of it at this moment. What do you think about that? All right, everybody, welcome to the third episode of the Pro Gamemaster Guild here at GM Philosophy. I'm here with Damocleave. I'm the GM Philosopher. This is basically the podcast where professional game masters get together and discuss the business, discuss what's going on. The purpose of this is not only to showcase some of the awesome pro game masters in the GM Philosophy community, but to also provide some, maybe some information that other pro game masters may not know from inside the industry, from the trenches of what's really going on. If you would like to be on this podcast at some point, join the GM Philosophy Discord and message me. Link is in the description. That's the only point to get on it at this point. Today, right now, we're starting off with me and Damocleave. Now, other people may join. Schedules are hectic out here. Pro GMs are busy these days. So they may or may not be able to join later, but that's all right. We're going to rock and roll as it is. And Damocleave, I'm going to let you just go ahead and introduce yourself first.
Hi, I'm unique. Let's start with English. On SPG, I'm known as GM Damocleave, and I go by my normal name, which is Jason. I've been role-playing for over 4 decades, and I cut my teeth on AD&D and Shadowrun and West End Games Star Wars. I've been a pro GM now 4 years on SPG, and I've got about 4 active games and about 7 games I'm trying to fill. They range from all sorts of things. There's a Shadowrun game. There is a dystopian future cyberpunk game where angels and demons are vying for the souls of mankind. There's a plushy little teddy bear game called Nightbears where the plushy teddy bears are animated and real, and of an evening when their humans are asleep, they roll under the bed into the dreaming to do battle with the nightmares of their humans, so the humans can function during the day. And the other one is I am rekindling a Legend in the Mist game.
Heck yeah. All right. Now, Jason, you said you have backgrounds for these games. I'd love to see them. Why don't you show them to us?
All right. I'm going to take me off the camera and I'm going to show you and keep talking. So first things first, this is my baby. This is Fragile Peace. This is a game that has been in incubation for about 10 years now. I've written so much about it. I've run it about 4 times campaign-wise over the last 10 years. And I've just dusted it off and brought it back out because it's something I keep going back to. Then there's the Nightbears, which I spoke about. That particular piece of art actually was from an original watercolor that I did, that I actually entered into an art competition last week at a local Comic-Con. I didn't get any prize this year, although I got second prize last year. Then we got the poster for the Calvara game. Now, this is a Dagger Heart game, which takes people from level 1 to level 10 and beyond in a world of my own creation. And the subtext there is that in a world where magic is ever present and solves a lot of the problems of the people, it comes at a price. and the campaign opens up with people learning what that price is. And then the other game I run on a Monday is Shadowrun, and that's the poster for the Shadowrun game.
Nice, very nice. Heck yeah, awesome. I've also launched a new game this week, which I'm not, maybe in post production, I'll put the poster up, but I launched a Morkborg game this week, The Quest for the Seven Relics. It's going to be a grim, dark, apocalyptic campaign where the world is ending and the player characters have been given a cryptic map leading them to 7 lost relics that might help them to reverse the apocalypse, but it probably won't, even if they succeed. Morkborg is very grim, dark. So I'm very excited about that. But anyway, yeah, that's a new game on my radar that I've launched. I have one game of that I'm going to be running on Thursday evenings at 9, or no, not 9, 7 p.m. Central Time. But anyway, so make sure that you check, for those of you who are interested in checking these game listings out, our links are going to be in the description. Make sure you check that out. And with that being said, let's go ahead and move into a little conversation here about the Pro GM journey. Okay, so Damocleave, fill us in. What have you been dealing with this week? Wins, challenges, victories, whatever has come up.
Right. The 2 things I've been working on this week is, first of all, the video that I shot. I'm still in the process of chopping it up into bite-sized bits. I'm learning so much because I'm not a video editor, but I'm having to do it myself, and I'm contemplating reaching out to other sources to speed the process up. But in the meantime, it's just me. The other thing I've been working on this week, or particularly today, this morning, is I've got a couple of games that have got to like 10th level with Daggerheart, which is max level. And I don't want things to stagnate and not go anywhere. So I've been looking at ways and means of prolonging that journey of feeling like you're achieving something going forward. So that there's some mechanical growth. And that's been a bit of a challenge, but my server is now chocker and full of all the goodies I've created.
Okay. Do you feel like this is a design flaw from Daggerheart, that it only goes to 10th level?
No, I don't think it's a design flaw, because I think typically a campaign of Daggerheart, if they were going to do it as a actual play, would run about 100 weeks, maybe 120 weeks at most. And you could do 10 levels in 120 weeks, and that would be perfectly okay. The progress would be a bit slower than what I do in my own games, but it would be completely fine. And so for the course of an actual play that you're going to be televising, it makes perfect sense. If you're going to go beyond about a year or so, then you need to be thinking about, what does this actually mean? Do we put these characters down? Do we pick up new characters and live in the aftermath of what our previous characters have done? Or do we take it in a new direction? Or do we create something like I've done this morning to prolong the journey?
Yeah. What do you think the consensus is? What, right now, do you feel like, basically it sounds like you're creating levels above 10th level, is what it sounds like.
In a manner of speaking, yeah. I've tried to use the mechanics of the game to backfill. As you progress, there are things on the table you kind of leave behind, choices that you either or make. And so I've created a mechanic so people can go back and backfill the things they didn't pick up on the first run through. And then I've written rules for taking them beyond 10th level.
Very nice. Okay, awesome. So how about on the business of filling games, getting new players? How have things been going on that front?
Ironically, my Shadowrun game is going to be probably coming to a close in about 5 weeks after they hit there's like um, an end scenario that they want to resolve, and then they're going to be jumping over onto one of my Wednesday games where I'm running Otherscape and the Fragile Peace, where they're going to be angels and demons and Gaians vying for the protection of mankind.
Oh, so you have a group of players who are gonna finish one game, but then start another one with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice, nice. So, actually, talk about that just a little bit because that's actually important. I have, I would say, been very grateful and very thankful that I've had several players who have not only joined one game with me, but after experiencing one game, they have gone on to join like 2, 3, sometimes even 4 of my other games and been a player in those other games. And I've even had players from like a group of players, one campaign, petition me to start another campaign alongside it, doing something different just because they like the style. They were really into, what was going on in the group. So like I have actually 2 campaigns going right now that are all virtually the same group, just playing in 2 different campaigns. And I believe that this is actually really important for pro game masters to think about and understand is that if you are good at what you do and you actually apply yourself to creating value in the craft, you're going to have players who want to do more with you. But it sounds like, so you're having that experience. You probably haven't had it in the past. If you wouldn't mind, maybe talk about that for just a little bit.
I find the biggest obstacle for players that want to come back and jump onto other seats on other tables that you're running is their finances. Now, in the past, what I've done is I've gone, well, you're playing X amount of games, so I'm going to give you a group discount. So I cut them a deal to make it more palatable for them, because if you get somebody that's turning up religiously on a daily basis to contribute to a game, you want them to feel as comfortable as possible with the outlay of money.
Yeah, I'm going to pause real quick. So I do think one thing that a lot of people don't think about is the fact that, like, let's say you're running a game. Like I run, all my games right now are $20 a seat, right? But if someone is going to play every week, then we're talking about $80 a month, right? Which, I mean, comparatively speaking, let's contrast that with like Netflix. Like I don't know what Netflix is now, $20 a month. I don't know. I mean, I pay I think $15 a month for Hulu. I don't know. I maybe if I go out to the local bar, I get a drink. I'm hanging out with my friends. I might spend $20 on a drink and a burger. And so there's so that's one night. But comparatively speaking, I think that there are a lot of people who balk a little bit at the price of a pro game, right? With that being said, I mean, the facts speak for themselves. I have multiple players who are not only gaming with me once a week at that price point, but I have one gamer who's literally gaming with me 4 times a week. And I even cut him a deal to where, because he's playing in 3, I give him 1 for free. So it's like, but he's spending so much time in the games, and I'm super grateful for that. But I think that maybe a lot of people who look in on the pro game master like situation, they don't take into account how important it is to some gamers to either have access to times that work for them, access to a welcoming community, access to maybe a game that actually meets their desires. They may only have one game available in their local hometown, and it's not the game they want to play at the time they can play it in with people they want to do it with. But also, there's also an element of this to be said, like they want to take it more seriously. They don't want to just show up, have half their friends not paying attention, blah, blah, blah. So there's an actual value add. And I feel like my experience has just blown away for me the danger of being like, oh no, in practice, this is too expensive. I'm like, no, and not for everybody. What has your experience been on that end of it?
Um, with the price point, I started at about $15 when I opened up the gate and ran 5 games. I picked up 2 players almost straight away, and 2 players jumped onto 5 different games I was running. And then I had a third player, and then within a couple of weeks, all games right at the very beginning were filled. Which I thought, well, if this is how it goes, um, then I've found my dream job.
Yeah. Go ahead and keep going. I can hear you. My camera just died out. I'll fix it in a little bit. Go for it.
Okay. So for me, I've I when I was taking it through the campaigns, because some of them went on for about 2 years. I did raise the price by $5 roughly every 6 months until it creeped up to about $30. And then I found about that price point, people had to make decisions on what games they were going to stay in and what games they were going to play. And I didn't want to price my regular players out of the game. So I kind of sat down with each one, looked at what was manageable for them, and came to an arrangement with them. Because I figured, if you talk to people on the level, and you hope that you're willing to have an open dialogue like adults, then you can obviously work something out. Nowadays, most of my games are about $30. The new games I've put out are actually $20 because I want to actually bring people in so I can fill the games. And I want to make it manageable for people, but I also want to make a living out of this. So so $20 is currently where I'm at.
So for new pro GMs or aspiring pro GMs listening to this, if I'm being very real about it right now, I feel like $20 is. I don't think I would run a game for less than $20 at this point. Like that's like very bare minimum. We're talking about losing money on your time. I feel like if it goes beneath that, because there's also time that's not in the game. There's time for prep. There's time for communication between. For every 4-hour session, I probably spend at least an hour. Probably more than an hour out of game doing stuff, right? So it's like there's that.
Yeah, I think the time you spend prepping and dealing with people and talking to people is probably about the same amount of time you run the game.
In some cases, yes. Some weeks, definitely. But I was going to ask you, like, if you think so. But then there's that weird. Like you were describing. There's that weird cutoff where when you start to push up to like $30 an hour, I do feel like for me personally, like with the money I make running games, and this is a big thing I'm about to say, I don't know that I could afford to play in a $30 a session game, right? Just with my income level, and I'm kind of new to the game. Like, I'm an entrepreneur, solopreneur, doing YouTube, running games full time. After I pay my mortgage, after I feed my dogs, after I pay the electric bill, I'm not going out to eat, right? It's like not right now. Like I'm keeping costs really low. So that's an interesting. So that $20 to $30 mark is really interesting. But also, there are people who literally have a more disposable income who want to play pro D&D, right? So, like, I have players who, like, they have literally sent me like tips between games. Like, I have one player, and I don't ask my players how much money they make. I have no idea. But I have one player who literally has every single session has either tipped me anywhere from $5 to $50 every single session. And he always says, man, I'm just so grateful for this game that, that you have like helped me to come out of my shell role playing and blah, blah, blah. So it's interesting to note that I think what you're talking about when you say taking a minute and talking to them about finances and this and that, this speaks to what I call like the human part of it, which is I think part of what pro GMs like. That's the value of it, is that you are, because it's a very human activity. It's not like a video game. It is very social and very human. And so I think that when GMs are willing to do those unscalable human activities, there's super value in that. And now hearing you talk about it, it makes me think, there's a point to where, I mean, so this leads into an abundance conversation, but I think that like money is very abundant. And I actually, to be real honest, if we're getting real serious about it, I'm getting to a point where I'm like working really hard on my abundance mentality with money. I've always been like a blue collar working class guy, right? I've always struggled to ask for money. I've always struggled to charge more. I'm always trying to charge the least amount possible just because that's like my viewpoint. I've always had to like save and like try to make ends meet. With that being said, there are people out there who the value that I'm providing is obviously so much more than what I'm charging that they feel compelled to tip, right? So that leads into an abundance, kind of an abundance scarcity conversation, which I would love to get your take on that.
Right. With me, my view and opinion about scarcity versus abundance. Now, I've always been prone to think about there being an almost infinite amount of resources out there. It's just about getting to it and finding it. There is always going to be money. The money's out there. And it's just about solving problems that are relevant to an audience that want to pay for those problems to be solved. And the problem that we're solving here is entertaining people in meaningful ways, and giving them as much value as possible. Now, I think, given my experience and what I deliver, I think that's definitely in the realms of like $30 a game session. But I find, in order to tease the market and to fill tables, I have to bring that down, so it's not so much of a hindrance as a price point. Because what I'm finding is, when I do, like, every so often, I'll do a spat of one shots, and of those one shots, I'll probably get one or two people that actually sign up to one of my other games. And so it's worthwhile. But without people coming to my tables and knowing who I am and knowing what I deliver, it's very hard for them to make a value judgment on whether or not I've got the goods. And it isn't until you've got them in the door and at a table that they realize what you're providing. And they can see the value in it then. But it's trying to reach out to all these people out there in the world that are interested in playing games, and basically getting them to, take a leap of faith, and give tables a go.
Yeah. Okay, so with that being said, here is where, so I'm going to talk just a little bit about some of my recent thoughts, some of my recent things I've been thinking about, going through. And this is hopefully to provide some value to the people out there. I've been really on this mission of thinking 2 years ahead. I want to put together the life that I want to live, right? So I think that anytime you're going into business for yourself, which is what pro GMing is, you're going into business for yourself. I think that this is a really important conversation. So I'm thinking, what kind of life do I want to be living 1 year from now, 2 years from now? So I have actually gone a bit back and forth on whether 5 years from now I want to be running as many games as I'm running now. I'm running 6 games right now, and I'm about to start a seventh. Now, 6 of them are pro games, and one of them is a friends and family game. That doesn't really count, but I have to ask myself, what do I want for my future? Okay, and now there's a running games. There are a few things. It's very calendar specific. You have to block out time for it. There's really no negotiating that. If you want to do it right, if you want to be professional, the consistency and the calendar is very important. This is my take. And so you have to commit to that. So in other words, if I start a game, now that I'm starting a Mork board game on in my time, Thursdays at 7 p.m., for the next year and a half, my Thursdays is set from 7 to 11 p.m. Central Time are going to be committed to this game. It's going to be highly unlikely that I'll have a single week off unless I schedule it in advance. And even then, I would hesitate to do that because it's the commitment and the consistency is a value add, and it's a controllable variable. And we should control all of our controllable variables in business. Now, with that being said, I love that. I'm in it to win it. But there's a part of me that 3 years down the road is asking myself, do I want to be committing my Thursday nights to running games for the next 10 years? I don't know that I want to do that with all of my 7 days of the week, right? So I have to be thinking about this. So I have been actually launching a bit of a campaign in my own life to really think about what I want 4 years from now, 3 years from now. And I've started going really hard on, so I have the GM Philosophy YouTube channel. A lot of people know this. What a lot of people in this community don't know is that I have 3 other YouTube channels that I'm building. So I've been going really hard creating content for those channels, because what I would really love to do is in 3 years, I'd love to be running 2 or 3 pro games at absolutely mint times for me, and then be making the rest of my income off of my YouTube presence, off my YouTube channels, selling various products, getting ad revenue, and things like that. I think that when I think about this future, I also want to travel a bit of my future. So this is another thing to think about. You can actually travel as a pro GM because your work can be very mobile. It's a little challenging, and you have to be very schedule conscious, but it is possible. But when I think about my future, I think about I need to be preparing now for what I want to happen 2 years from now. So right now I'm running all my games, very into it. But I am also every time, I'm not in a game session, it's all right, got to be making content for these YouTube channels. I believe that a lot of game masters are underutilizing YouTube and social media to help them build the future they want for themselves sustainably. But with that being said, I've really been on that right now, really been thinking through that lately. And the result is literally before we were on this call, I was recording a video for one of my channels and editing it. Earlier this morning, I recorded another video, so it's all of my spare time is going into these other YouTube channels. The spare time I'm not spending on GM Philosophy and then my games. And I think that a lot of GMs probably need to think about this, think about the future, what they want to do. Not only is this a business, but it is a life decision. And I also think that I don't know about this, but I have a feeling that some newer pro GMs might be completely focused on the money. If I could just get so much money a week, I could be this would be great. But this is the same problem we run into with a day job. We if I can just make enough money to pay my bills, but it's no, we have to think about getting ahead in life. We have to think about actually getting to the next chapter and moving up and forward, not only creating a better life for us, but being able to deliver more value. So for example, the games I'm running right now are the best games I've ever run, without a doubt. But when these games wrap up, I want to launch a set of games that are going to be head and shoulders above these games. But I'm not going to be equipped to do that unless I'm mentally there, spiritually there, physically there. I mean, I also started my new push-up routine. I played tennis today, and I also did my push-ups today because I'm like, I got to get in better shape, man. But then also financially, our financial lives, our games are going to be way better if we are not sitting there being stressed about finances while we're running games, right? So it's like this is a bigger thing. So I've been doing a lot of thinking about this, and I would be very, very interested to hear what you think about this. If you think about these things, as another pro GM. So when I say all of that, Damocleave, do you have any thoughts about that? I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
It's definitely a lifestyle choice. Like I said, I'm pleased that I've wrapped up the Silly O'Clock Tuesday game. It was an absolute brilliant campaign. I really, really enjoyed it. The final crescendo was them actually taking down the BBEG, only to be facing death itself. And I left it on the cliffhanger as death incarnate manifested. And they said, "Oh, are we all going to die?" I went, "Well, no. We won't know until you come back." So I left that. I left that in the cliffhanger, but it meant that, like, because I was running that game at Tuesday at 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. in the morning, and now I've got my nights back, which means I've got no games at silly o'clock, and so that's definitely improved my health. With recent consistency, I've changed my diet drastically over the last 4 weeks. So there's been very little in the way of carbs, no potatoes, no pasta, no bread, no rice, just meat, fish, and vegetables.
I've been on that keto grind myself, so I definitely understand.
And it definitely helps. With regard to the games and the future and that kind of thing, I want to be running as many games as I can for the next couple of years. But my tactic after that is to take on a more mentor role and create more GM workshops on SPG to help people, much the way that we're doing here, but on a more intimate level through my server. So, I think a lot of value could be had for creating content in that way. And I think it could reach a bigger audience because I've got a community server, which means that I can have a stage where I can invite, I think it's thousands, absolutely thousands of people onto the server to be in an environment where they can stick their hand up and ask questions.
Yeah. Which actually brings to mind a very interesting thought. I think that actually this pro GM thing, this whole thing, is actually very new. I feel like this is a very new development, and actually we're probably at a point. I kind of feel like we are maybe a year before what you might call it the gold rush begins, like where everyone realizes, oh, wait a minute, this is actually a thing. I feel like in my YouTube comments, I get a lot of real skepticism. Like I had one commenter in particular try to tell me that, like, they basically left some comments saying you're lying. People are not paying you to run D&D. Like, you are absolutely lying about all this. And I was like, and I thought maybe it was a troll. And I was like, are you serious? Like, you really think I'm lying about that? And they're like, oh yeah, nobody would ever pay to play D&D. Like, you are like, I think you're lying about this on YouTube just to get views. And this was such an interesting thing. Now, this is a very extreme thing, right? But I really believe that we're in a place right now where there are a lot of people who don't either know about this or that they have serious doubts about this, and they're probably capable of doing it, but they're holding back because it's like, well, I'm not going to jump into this foolishness if it's not real, and if this is an arena for clowns, right? It's like, but I think that there's an actual lack of awareness, and I think that once that catches on and people realize it, is probably going to be like probably 1,000% influx of GMs trying to actually do pro GMing, which is good. But I think that I still think we're ahead of it at this moment. What do you think about that?
I think when people are looking at content, it's good to have a healthy amount of skepticism. But with that skepticism should come like due diligence. They should be checking it out. They should be going to the source. Other people have reviewed SPG. Devon has produced enough content. It's been endorsed by Matt Mercer and Brendan Lee Mulligan. He's recently done an advert on Facebook as of yesterday. And I made a comment on the short that was on Facebook, just to say, thank you for making advertisement from people that are recognised, because then that gives what we're doing more credibility. But I do think, when you hear things for the first time, it's like, if I look at where my journey began, I mean, I was the forever GM and I was running games as much as humanly possible. And my wife was trying to encourage me to do the best I could be. And she said, you're good enough to be paid to do this. And when that idea went into my head, I was like, well, what does that look like? How do I do that? How do I achieve that? And that's how I found SPG, because I was looking for it. But if you're not looking for it, you wouldn't even know it was there. And so it just needs more people sharing content to reach the audience that haven't already heard what we're doing.
Yeah. Do you think do you think that pro GMing do you think it's going to catch on in a bigger way and it's going to grow? Or do you think it's kind of like a passing fad? What do you think about this?
I don't think it's a passing fad. I definitely, since COVID, it has grown. I've watched all of the office hours that Devon releases. So Devon being the CEO of Start Playing Games, and if you've been watching the content he's producing regarding their development, their goals, their mission statement, what they're actually focused on, it is expanding. I mean, tail end of this year, he wants to do some advertisement in Europe and further afield. There's talk about being able to switch the currency, because at the moment it's just in American dollars, which I would love for that to be a thing. And then it's all a case of it's growing, and it's year on year, it's expanding, and there will be a saturation point. I don't know when that'll be, but that's what it's heading towards. But we haven't got there yet.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that my experiences have showed me that there's actually a need for it, to the point where, I kind of feel like I'm feeling very grateful that I might have gotten in before the gold rush, so to speak. I really get the sense of that. I really feel that in the next 3 to 4 years, it's going to probably explode pretty big. My actual prediction is that in about a year, it's going to really start to explode as very talented game masters who are right now very skeptical begin to realize that there's a world full of D&D players, or TTRPGs in general. It's not just D&D, but there's a world full of players who want deeper games, more serious games, games at weird times when their local game store isn't open, all these things. And that is actually legitimately difficult sometimes to find game masters who can afford to be very serious about the craft, because they're also working their day job. They've got families. A game master's work, is going to be affected by the fact that they're engaging in a hobby, and that hobby has to take a lower priority than their job, their family, their pets, because there's a lot of responsibility there. But if you elevate that craft to more of a position of like, well, no, this is actually something that I'm getting paid for. This is something that I can actually move up in my priority list. I can actually do this at a deeper level and make it like even better than it was when I was running free games. Then that, I think, just creates a lot of extra value. And I think that little mechanism there, I think a lot of people don't really understand that right now. And I think that pro GMing is demonized to a point, because it's like you're charging for something everyone's always done for free. It's like, okay, yeah, that may be true, but who's to say that isn't taking us in a very good direction, evolving the craft? I had one comment on my YouTube channel yesterday, literally, and they were like, "Are you serious? Pro GMing? This is why I got out of playing D&D, because people are just taking this way too seriously. I just want to play a game. This is too serious for me." And it's like, okay, you may feel that way, but there are people who want to take this more seriously. That's what I feel like I'm realizing every day. And it's really interesting that when I play my friends and family game, that used to feel very serious to me. But after running pro games for a while with players who are really in it to win it, like my friends and family game is starting to feel a bit like, oh man, this is nowhere near as serious as I'm used to being. And when I say serious, I mean like taking the story very seriously, taking immersion very seriously, like really caring about it. And that takes it to a whole nother level.
I've got players that are very intense, and other players that are just quite casual. Over the years, I've had tables that have, have always, kept me on my toes and kept me surprised at how deep they want to sort of dive into the story, and sort of immerse themselves, really. And I really enjoy that. That's one of the reasons why I do this.
Yeah.
I find that very rewarding when people actually care about their characters, when they care about the story and the world and the things that are going on, and players that pay attention to those things as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. All right, we're coming up on the end of the hour here. Damocleave, any closing thoughts from you about what we've talked about? We've kind of talked a lot about the finances, the vision in general, the future goals. Any closing thoughts from you?
I would say if there's anybody out there that's not sure, follow the links. Do your due diligence. There's plenty of reviews for SPG out there. If you follow the links, there's actually reviews about us as GMs. You can read about what real people have said about us, and what they really think. I think, give it a go, see what you like, enjoy yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Everyone, thank you for coming back for another episode of GM Philosophy. This has been an episode of the Pro Gamemaster Guild Podcast. If you'd like to be a part of it, once again, join the Discord. Message me. The only way to possibly get on this podcast is to message me one-on-one right now. There's no other application process. And thanks for watching. Leave a comment. Let us know if you'd like us to discuss something in a future episode. Make sure to check out Jason's links. They're all in the description. if you're looking for a game or a game master or even someone just to talk to about this whole thing, make sure to, you can also find Jason in the GM Philosophy Discord. He's in there. Damocleave is the handle. But yeah, so thank you, Jason, for being on the podcast.
And no, thank you.
For all of those of you watching, we will see you on the next one.